Welcome back to the channel. I'm Shanna. I'm a Canadian medical student, and this channel is mostly on pre-med mentorship and medical student advice, but we're also trying to feature a lot of really important issues that need to be talked about. I'm honored and thrilled to have my friend Catherine on the channel today, and we're going to talk about a platform she's co-created with some friends on eating disorders. We're going to talk about how this platform got created, what it can offer for anyone interested in learning more about eating disorders.
We are working really hard on an eating disorder awareness platform. The background story about it, in my adolescence and for a long, long time, I had struggles and I really experienced a lot of the downsides of just having bulimia, anorexia, and that consumed a lot of my good memories in my life. Basically, what was the most catalytic to the process was social media and what was on the internet. I learned pretty much everything in terms of disordered eating from Tumblr, from Instagram, Facebook. There's just no filters on what is published online. And me being young, sometimes there's no age restrictions either. I can just access whatever I could search from my computer at the time. Basically, when I was struggling, it was really hard for me to articulate that I needed the help. But for me at the time, I found my favorite YouTubers were my sources, or my favorite models at the time were kind of my educational role models when I was around 13. So it was really difficult for me to feel comfortable speaking with an adult that was super professional, and seeing those doctors or psychiatrists was super intimidating at the time. I found that there is a gap in the way we market to this community and this population of eating disorder patients. So that's why our group decided to come together and create a really modernized way of putting all the resources together made by these lovely professionals into one uniform space in the framework that shows the younger generation hi, like we know this content's unfiltered, so let's try to tap into that and also put in there the credible sources so that you know this content isn't necessarily the best for your long-term health. So that's kind of like the goal for this platform and the background story.
I love it, and I totally agree. I think for me, like in high school and stuff, like a lot of the girls and on to like these diets that are like very like nutritionally unbalanced or unhealthy on the internet. But I remember stuff like they would tell you about like, yes, the best way to lose weight is to eat one food for like 2 weeks, or like eat foods that are not, there's all sorts of like things, and you actually think they're like very credible because definitely as anyone who's older than you seems like a credible source, or the fact that they're on the internet, that they're like, oh yeah, they know what they're doing, or we trust them for another reason because they're a guru for whatever reason. So it's very deceiving, and I think part of it is not always necessarily useful that they're not being discriminating. It's that some people out there like to present themselves as like experts without being real experts.
One really important thing that is kind of leading to the stigma against kind of being really vocal about disordered eating is that this population is super competitive. Despite maybe sharing really positives, they will only see maybe the weight number, or they'll draw from your eating disorder behavior that you're sharing. Although that's not the main topic, they kind of funnel their mindset into, oh, well, she was able to achieve this weight, or this person was able to achieve these stages in their disordered eating. I want to do the same too. So it becomes really, I guess, sensitive and really dangerous when you're trying to bring awareness. So our group has done a lot of learning. We've really tried to stay safe while bringing awareness to all that disordered content you see online. And one thing I wanted to ask you, I just want to ask your perspective. Where do you think we can draw the line between showcasing the truth about disordered eating, so, the consequences long term, the really dark, hard truths of what an eating disorder looks like, versus making sure we're not glamorizing or giving any disordered eating content for them to learn from? I find social media really glamorizes it, but we also want to show the truth behind it, because it's actually not all flowers and it's not an aesthetic to have disordered eating. But at the same time, if we showcase the truth, will that also be harmful? That's just something I've been really struggling between.
Feel you on that, like you want to find that line between you want to talk about it, but you don't want to like trigger, I guess, anyone who had a previous or current or at risk of developing, because like maybe they weren't even aware of all these behaviors that you could do, and suddenly now they learn about it. But at the same time, it's difficult because I think there is a population that they would be so like kind of almost released from feeling alone in their struggle, knowing that other people are doing the same thing or experiencing the same struggle. And I think eating disorders and other mental health disorders as well seem to have that on like trying to like that line between glamorizing and also normalizing is such a like a hard line to draw. For sure. And I think there was that term, I forget what it's called exactly, where it's like if you like the problem that the risk of re-traumatizing someone just with I think definitely like I think it's very helpful. I think, but I heard sometimes like when people post a picture of when they were at their like their peak of their disordered eating and their body was looking a certain way, it kind of traumatizes some people who think about the hard time they had in that peak. And so I think usually people encourage like that first picture you have on Instagram is not to be the most like maybe like not the most one that you think could be at risk of traumatizing someone, but also ideally it's not that over photoshopped picture of someone looking unrealistically thin either, for sure. But at the same time, I would hate to have us like because we don't want to like risk talking about it or glamorizing it. It's also creating stigma against
the stigma.
I don't know. I feel like I'm not actually giving you a clear answer because I don't have it, but
culture, we find every time someone tries something new, something that's a little bit different, there will be a lot of reactions that are against it. And I find with eating disorders, I really truly believe we need to be more vocal about it. And as you said, the benefits, feeling that you're not alone, hearing the struggles, and so that you're more aware of the consequences of engaging in disordered eating. I feel like these are things that people need to be aware of, but at the same time, a lot of people think that's really harmful and totally ground that should be never touched. So it's really hard to kind of figure out what's the right way to bring awareness without getting people triggered. We've put trigger warnings, but we still get DMs saying that this content triggered me, or I feel like you're going to be really irresponsible with this content. Even though we're not sharing disordered eating behavior, people are still just really fearful of just stepping into that realm of that mental health. Sorry, I'll rephrase, but that disorder of eating disorders, many people just stray away from even speaking about what it actually is, just because they're so afraid of, like I said, that competitive behavior. They don't want to re-trigger, re-traumatize. So that's why it's still a struggle, but as we progress, I will update you as to what we'll learn. And I think even professionals nowadays, they still are trying to find the fine line between accommodating to this generation that's so vocal in social media. Because our generation, social media and the internet is just so integral in our lives, but there are also many professionals that have not experienced that level of identity with social media, and seeing so many people being so like loud and present and creating movements and being vocal, that's something that's just unfamiliar with that generation as well. So I think soon we need to find the safe ground, and when we become certified and when we become professionals, hopefully we can create a really safe space that accommodates both the generation's power of social media and making it their identity, while also not re-triggering, re-traumatizing.
It seems like an unfair towards disordered eating and mental health disorders, but whereas if someone was trying to use for a physical health disorder, no one would complain about, no one would send you a DM about being traumatized about it. Okay, maybe I feel like much less likely about how like in these corners of the internet, all this content that is there to be negatively influencing is just out there. And
it's just out there, no filter.
No one's moderating it, no one's filtering it, but you guys are trying to do good, and it's like kind of trying to be like, some people are trying to censor it and filter it and like cancel it, which I think is interesting that we tend to like pick on stuff. And I do definitely agree that instead of saying like, oh, we can't talk about anything on social media, I agree that we can't fight that social media is such an integral part of our generation, and also like all the generations that are younger than us. They like social media is kind of their life. So we have to just go with the flow and adjust to the culture and provide knowledge where kids are seeking their knowledge. I can't cite a specific number, but I remember reading some kind of study where like kids nowadays, most of their knowledge comes from like YouTube and Instagram now. And like the average kid spends like 4 hours on Instagram or like social media, some sort of social media platform, whether or not that's TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube, on a daily basis. So where they're getting unhealthy messages is also the best place to spread healthy messages.
If I can quickly share too what our platform is embodying. So there are a couple tabs. One of the main ones is called just hot clickbait. So we are taking all of the headliners on TikTok, on Instagram, and then funneling it down to an infographic showing what are the long-term consequences, what are the side effects if you do this, period. And then we just leave it at that. This is just to give really quick info to show people maybe the consequential side rather than just seeing the benefits. Because these marketing companies are so great at just really highlighting, the results, but it do skim over in a really big essay that nobody probably reads of the consequences. So we're trying to mitigate that and put that in a really easy platform to read. Another thing we're doing too is podcasts. So we are interviewing professionals about their perspectives about this diagnosis, getting kind of their insight as to how they've managed with this population, giving their expertise. We're also interviewing eating disorder recovery individuals, as I mentioned earlier. And then on top of that, we have a bunch of resources that we've funneled down and put onto one page. So if you're ever struggling or if you want to know what an eating disorder looks like, let me just show you really good resources that are already published by hospitals, technicians, therapists, psychiatrists. So that's kind of the basis of the platform.
Crazy on TikTok, like the hashtag, it's called anorexic, but not spelt the same way. So I think that's how they're getting away with being flagged. But it could have around like 6 million videos under that hashtag,
or just disordered eating check. Like that's a trend for some reason, and it's just so put out there in such a raw way, and there's no filter. I think TikTok's rules and private policies and their terms of use, they really just don't have any sort of filtration. Like it can be almost anything you want in a sense until it gets flagged. But I feel like the moment you post it, TikTok is known for virality, so you could have millions of people see it already before it gets flagged down, and that's just the really tough part about that platform. Although a beautiful platform, you can really learn and share so much, but they've really created an algorithm that can really just create so much disordered eating content for you if you're slowly looking at videos of that type.
Yeah.
So it's just really scary. And I don't know if you have any perspectives with your interactions of TikTok, Snapchat, or Instagram. It's changed so much since when we were younger.
Well, that makes me like I'm kind of disturbed by the fact that there like is a disordered eating check for people to almost like promote it in like a humorous or like, yeah, I'm so cool. This is disordered, like. And I'm kind of trying to balance. I'm not saying disordered eating shouldn't be stigmatized. I'm just saying like it's being treated as a cool, trendy thing to do, which is not okay.
It's become so smart. Like I find the way they tailor to your own interests and preferences, which is why I find it's just so much more dangerous. Because as I said, if I was slowly developing a mindset where I need to change my body, how can I do that? I'll start searching videos, or let's say on TikTok, I start liking videos that are like workout routine or what I eat in a days that look like, and that's just kind of the gateway to a plethora of disordered eating videos. And TikTok really knows how to funnel it, and they have a really good algorithm that can match videos that are similar to that. But I think the bad part is you start spiraling down this really scary For You page of just disordered eating content. And there was a trend recently about an audio. So this girl, she's a music artist. She shared a song. It's called Prom Queen. And it was about her just, not feeling like she has that ideal body type. And it's just a whole song about how she doesn't feel beautiful because she doesn't fit what society deems as beautiful at the time. Mm-hmm. So the problem with that is someone created a trend where they showcased disordered eating behaviors with that trend. And it became such a viral thing. So many people were doing it. And it became such a toxic comment section. Just open the comments. You see people as young as 10 years old saying, oh, well, I will probably do this, or wow, I'm not going to eat today because I see this. And it's just so heartbreaking because they're so young. And I even clicked on their profiles and they're literally 10 years old, you know, sharing Roblox or just cute days of their life. You see they're commenting these things, and it really affects their mental health, and it's really tough. But I'm thinking, as health professionals, how do we reach this age group? Because if we're not going to talk to them till they're, let's say, more articulate in their research and their education, but by then it's already been 5-6 years since they've engaged in so much disordered eating content, that it's really integral in their minds, and the disorder gets so much worse. So how can we reach them right at the beginning?
Yeah, I was thinking when you mentioned that how we reach the 10-year-olds, like the first way, my question is, how will they find your content in the first place? Like, if it's viral, it's not trending right now, how will they find it? It's different in that you and I are going to purposely search stuff, but they're more kind of passively consuming. I'm almost like, would it be, I mean, we'll end up talking about this later, but the whole, some schools are reluctant to even mention it, but I remember, what did they have in, elementary school, that whole, it used to be called HACE, or whatever, health and career education. If they could even mention that there's a resource out there, I feel like schools would be reluctant to introduce new things. But ideally, if kids would learn, I don't know, I was going to say, yes, learning about it in schools, but I was thinking about, when you and I were in elementary school, the place where I would learn about a resource would probably be just from word of mouth from another friend. So, getting that information to even people knowing a resource exists is challenging, because I don't necessarily know if I would listen to an adult telling me where a website to check out. I would check out a website my friend told me to check out. I'm not sure I would check out what something. So, yeah, it's kind of almost like a catch-22 thing where you're going, you gotta make this thing so they learn about it, but they need to learn about it to tell more people to learn about it. So how do they learn about it in the first place? It's I guess, developing disordered eating and body image challenges has been an issue throughout time. Even for us, TikTok didn't exist when we were young, but I'm definitely I was mentioning, high school people telling you about these trends. I don't know where we learn about these trends. I think it's someone does it and someone you hear about it. But
someone tells you in halls.
And then I'm just thinking that whole body image thing has been an issue forever, because we look at celebrities. I'm probably still at that age. Probably less influencers, but more celebrities, where we're wow, they this is the way I should look. Actually, I remember that for a while. There was a while where I was really into K-pop celebrities, me of the past, and then they always report a specific weight in kilos and height, and then you'd have BMI was, and I remember having a phase where I thought I had to weigh what that was, despite not really being the same height, and also realizing that not number one, number two, realizing that weight is fake. They are definitely very, very light, and it's their entire career depends on them working out and eating well.
Right. Yeah.
Realizing that's usually it's artificially inflated a bit, which is kind of crazy that there is that pressure to deflate their weights and stuff. But I was thinking, back in that day, that was the kind of things I was doing. Just thinking oh, I wish I was that weight, even though that was kind of unachievable. I think it's harder for kids nowadays too, because there were celebrities, but now there's celebrities and also influencers. Who are great people, but I'm thinking even for myself as an old, not really that old, educated 22-year-old. Sometimes when I see these influencers, all look super thin, and everyone's in their bikini in the Maldives or whatever, and you're
right,
I look like that, even though you consciously know that there's some photoshopping going on, there's some angles going on. You look at yourself, you're I don't look like that. And I think as an adult, I'm just I start the more content I consume that looks a certain way, I start seeing myself in the mirror and thinking that's how I want to look, or I should look, and I don't look like that. That's bad. I'm bad because I don't look that way. So as an adult, I find it hard. Sure.
One thing that our platform, some people may think we're doing, is that we're only showcasing social media's effect. But the one thing that people should remember is that social media is actually just the gateway to learn so much disordered eating behaviors. Eating disorders, the purpose or where it stems from can come from a whole wheel of reasons. But learn the behaviors, I truly think social media is one of the
biggest catalysts. One thing that we're trying to also use as one of our kind of like our like fight back tactics is media literacy. So as you mentioned, like you talked about it, the Photoshop, Facetune, people are really good at Photoshop, and I just get blown away every time. You can even see the pores, and that's photoshopped, and I'm like, wow, that's so HD. There's no way. But the reality of it is technology is so fluent, and so many people are really fluent on making themselves crafted into, that perfect version of themselves that they want to portray. So I just wanted to ask how you felt and your journey as to realizing, oh, maybe this is Photoshop, or diving into those feelings of, I want to look like that. Like, I just wanted to hear how you've been on your own.
And it's funny, I've actually deleted Instagram like twice until whenever I've been back on it. It's because every time I read a good quote somewhere. Someone said Instagram's engagement is built on increasing our insecurities. It's like I definitely feel like super happy when I see people do like cool stuff, but I get happy in that I like leave and I like resume my real life. But where I tend to, if I do, and then after reading that article or whatever, they're like, yeah, like I do realize that the times I get sucked in and could scroll for a long, long time is when I start feeling that of insecurity. I'm like, is everyone else looking a certain way? Is everyone else living a glamorous life in a certain way? And for some reason, it really sucks you in to like scrolling more and more. And then you like, I would just curious and see whoever's posting, but I wouldn't really care to check other people's. But if I'm feeling insecure, I might like check on like, there's a few like influencers that live a life that's really nice, and you like check on them, and that makes you more insecure. And then you check on the next influencer. Yeah, I totally do. I've totally done that. I'm like, why? Why do I do that? Or in terms of maybe not so much disordered eating, but I used to compare myself to like other like medical student, like before I became in as like trying to contribute to mentorship side, just looking at other medical students, and somehow their life just looks so put together and so aesthetic. And you think you're doing life like wrong in a way, and everyone's like having a good time. Actually, this is a side tangent, but I was just thinking, I think there's actually another side to unhealthy eating. There's like promotion of disordered habits, or pseudo like diets that are like fad diets that look pseudo healthy. I think there's also culture that I really don't like, of people trying to be like, oh yeah, like I'm not one of those girls, I just eat anything, which is fine. Eating anything is good, but then they portray in gross amounts, almost like I would classify binge eating a lot amounts of fast food, healthy foods. And then they follow with like, but I'm naturally like, I look like super thin like this, and I eat all this nasty stuff. This whole like not trying too hard image, and that one I say doesn't sit well with me. Definitely, I've caught myself like even saying that kind of thing, because it gets into your brain where you're like, oh yeah, you're like not one of those people who like really nitpick on your food, but when you get really into nutrition and you get really into like the real ways, you do have to make healthy choices with your food, and you can't just like, you can't eat like you're 12 all the time and going through your groceries. So I think that one bothered me a little bit, in that there's like that duality of like there's like fitness influencer culture of like everyone's got to eat, like it looks like everyone only eats like chia seed bowls and stuff. All they eat are acai bowls, and that's all they eat, and they work out like 3 hours a day. And the other side of it, where people are clearly they're doing something that's keeping them fit, but they're trying to portray it like, I'm not one of those, and so then there's like that kind of like lies, be an influencer, because these people on the internet, as soon as someone gains like 2 pounds, or just a picture was a little unflattering, or maybe they photoshopped a little less than usual, and suddenly they get all these hate comments that they've done.
This is one of the most, I guess, well known, but as you said, bulimia, so the ones that projecting those behaviors. And then there's also orthorexia, where they're super healthy, obsessed with healthy eating. So there's also one too that a lot of people don't even know is eating disorder, just because that just seems like the idealistic way to eat. And one thing I brought too, so with Photoshop, there also comes plastic surgery. and you brought up how people are pretending to eat a certain way, but not really showcasing the full story of their lifestyle. And this brought into conversations of surgery. So this girl has a beautiful body, like regardless before or after, but she did do surgery, but she wouldn't admit it. And there were lots of controversies involved in it, because you can see from before photos, she looks definitely exercise and just aging could not make her look the way she looks now.
Yeah.
But she wouldn't admit the surgery. So that brought up the conversation of, you are giving the impression of the public that they can achieve this look just by eating the way you do, or exercising the way you do, or the products you're promoting potentially. And it's really harmful, because as you said, it's so irritating, because I feel like you, in your education background, you know that's not right. She can't just be eating like that and then just the way she does without any context. Like, there's no context she's giving. But then the problem is when people see it and they're not aware of that kind of questioning of this content, they just believe it face forward. They're like, wow, she can eat like that. There must be something wrong with me. I must be so not a normal, whatever normal is, but I'm not the way I'm supposed to be. So that's just a really big thing. Should influencers be more transparent about what they're doing to themselves to achieve the way they're looking? If you got plastic surgery, can we normalize sharing that? Like, is that okay to just normalize, hi, I got a boob job, I just want to tell you guys that I don't want you to think that, you know, my diet or the products I'm promoting will give you like big boobs, for example. Like, that's not the case. Or these waist trainers, will I achieve that waist if I buy this product? It's so misleading. But I think the bad thing is, a lot of these influencers know that, and they are purposely not sharing so they can get these sponsors. I'm really happy, like, to hear your perspectives throughout this past hour.